Welcome to the GU272 Descendants Association as we discuss Finding Your Roots featuring our cousin, Epatha Merkerson. Welcome, everyone in the chat room. And as we begin our discussion tonight, we have several cousins with us, beginning with our cousin Gloria. Go on and introduce yourself, Gloria.
Yeah, hello. I'm Gloria. I reside now in New Orleans, and Isaac Hawkins was, of course, my, was it third or fourth great grandfather? Okay. And Epatha is my first cousin.
Next up, we have Rochelle.
Good afternoon, cousins. Seem like I'm getting some feedback still. My name is Rochelle Sanders Prater. I'm originally from Maryland. I live in Cincinnati now. I too am a descendant from Patrick and Letty Hawkins. I am Jackson Hawkins' great granddaughter, who was Peter's brother.
Lisa?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, fantastic. My name is Lisa Williams. I am the granddaughter of Emily Hawkins, who is a descendant of Isaac Hawkins. I reside in Illinois.
Next up, we have cousin Lucille, otherwise known as cousin Peaches. Are you still with us, cousin Peaches? We'll come back to cousin Peaches. Next, we have cousin Sherilyn, otherwise known as cousin Cherry.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sherilyn Branch, and I am a descendant of Henny and Hillary Ford, my second great grandparents, and my grandmother, who was born at Chatham Plantation, who was the daughter of a slave, and his name was Basil Ford. So Ford is the surname that I'm most closely associated with. I serve as president of GU272 Descendants Association, and I live in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Thank you, cousin Cherry. And now we have cousin Val.
Hello, everyone. My name is Valerie White. I was born and raised in Louisiana, but I currently live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm a descendant of both the Campbell and Mahoney families. I hope you enjoy the show tonight. We would like to find out which ancestors you descend from and which state you're viewing from. We have two links in our chat box as well as on Twitter and Facebook. One is a state's poll or survey. The other is an ancestor surname poll. When filling out our state's poll, please select the state that you are calling from. If you're an international caller, please select international, which is at the bottom of the survey. When filling out our ancestor surname poll, please check all the ancestors you descend from. You can make multiple selections because many of us are from multiple ancestors. If you're a board member, please check board member. If you're not a descendant or if you're not a board member, please select friend or family. Near the end of the show, we will share the results with you. I hope you enjoy the show. You may check the links now and see you at the end of the show.
And when our cousin Peaches gets back on the line, we'll have her introduce herself. But in the meantime, I want to thank everyone who has joined us in the chat room. I do see that we have some of our other cousins in the chat room. We have cousin Yvonne, who hails from Arizona. And I see cousin Kathy Stevenson, who is in Maryland, and cousin Melissa who's from Maryland but is currently living in Texas, and you guys in the chat room, cousin Rochelle will talk to you guys in the chat room and let us will be posing some questions to you. Oh, I see that cousin Dante from Maryland and cousin Melly. Everybody knows cousin Melly, who is a current student at Georgetown University. Hey, Melly. Shout out to you, Melly. This is going to be a great show as we all talk about the episode that just aired on PBS. And to get started, what do you guys think? What are some of your impressions from tonight's episode of Finding Your Roots? Let's start with Cousin Gloria. What did you think after watching the episode?
Um, Actually, I was in awe to see it on television. I had been since we found out, we had been doing some research on that. So I knew a little bit of what they were talking about and how the slaves were sold. Now the part that I didn't know about was the fact that the Jesuits had the plantation and they had left England because they were persecuted. Now that was interesting, but the whole mechanism of people being brought to Louisiana and I always refer to it is that they had to go a few more years, close to 100 more years. They had to fight a few more years in order to get their freedom. And in the meantime, also had to survive. So that's my impression that I got. And I think I second what Epatha said, that they were a hell of a bunch of people. You stand on the back, so.
Anyone else want to chime in?
This is Lucille Peaches, and I'm sorry I stepped away, but I am a Butler Hawkins, and I am from Maringouin, but I live now in Mandeville, Louisiana. What I wanted to say too is that I don't want to jump ahead, but I think that the program was well done. It was a great historical opportunity for all of us, not only who knew, but to learn more. And I think that it was presented in such a way to where, I thought about when my child had to do a book report about her genealogy. And I could go as far as Papa Hawk and Mama Easter. And one of the things that I'm really proud of is that my Papa Hawk Hawkless Murmur married Easter Butler Hawkins.
Anyone else?
This is Rochelle Sanders Praters. I just wanted everyone on the that's participating to remind everyone, if you're not aware, when it comes to the Hawkins surname, that Isaac Hawkins, the patriarch of the Hawkins, actually there's documentation. I would encourage everyone to go to the Slavery Archive on the Georgetown website. It's awesome. There's evidence there where Isaac remained behind in Maryland. But the point I wanted to make, one of the brothers, I believe it was, I can't remember the name, forgive me, I believe it was James. I know his wife was named Delia. His wife and his two kids actually went out on the first shipment, if you will. They were one of the 51 back in 1838 that went right with Johnson and Beatty. They went to Terrebonne Parish. Patrick and Letty, as you know, it appears that Patrick and Letty and Nance Butler, for the most part, yes, there were Harrises and Halls and Hills and so forth, but for the most part, Nance and Bibby Butler, as well as Patrick and Letty, they pretty much populated northern Ippaville, Poincaré Parish, which is where Maryland is in Ippaville Parish. Also, there was a son named Isaac who had ran away. His wife, forget her name, but his wife and his, I believe it was 2 or 3 sons, they were sent to to Donaldsonville, Ascension Parish. So when we talk about the Hawkins, yes, there were also the Campbells were real big and the Queens in Terrebonne Park Parish, but there was also a Hawkins there. So I want everybody on this call or on this effort live to understand that there were actually, I believe, 30. Correct me, somebody, when I'm done. 30 some
41.
surnames. A quarter. Okay.
41.
41. There were the Fords, there was the Queens, there was the Anderson, there was the Doyces, there was, and those are other names, surnames that's in the greater Maringouin area. And by the way, just for those, especially you, Shannon Christmas, we actually happen to match each other by DNA, and we have to look further as to exactly how we related. But there are a number of other surnames. Maryland is that area of Ippaville Parish was very small, about 1,200 people even today. So I would encourage Shannon to come on in here and see if we can find that connection as to how we fit in. If for everybody out there who don't know who Shannon Christmas is, he's a quite well known in the DA, especially with the Black DNA, African American DNA community. So I'm gonna cut me off. I think we got some interference. So,
All right. Thank you. Anybody else have some impressions?
Now, I just wanted to comment on, this is Gloria, comment on the fact that when Epatha was shown the Descendants, reminding people that we share on both sides of the family the same grandfather, Isaac. My, yes, Patrick and Letty, both sides of the family. So we're what? Double, maybe triple kin,
Would you like me to put the tree up?
if you want to.
Okay, I'll go on and share the tree right now, and then you can go on and talk through that.
Well, it's just underscoring the fact that many people did not move. In fact, they did not start to move away from Maryland until, I would say, the World War II and beyond, when the younger people didn't want to stay in the South. So most of the people still live there that were brought there in, well, this 1838. So, you know, it's amazing that that came up. And when we were doing the research, I was saying, well, you know, but it's a small town. And so therefore people often, I guess, married someone who maybe they knew and didn't know they were related.
So I have your tree on the screen right now, so people are able to see that connection between your family. And so on the show, they talked about, I remember that cousin Epatha spoke very lovingly of her grandmother Pearl.
Yes.
And so can you kind of explain that connection between you and grandmother Pearl as well?
Well, she was my grandmother also. So, and my mother, unlike my father's family, my mother's family pretty much stayed in Maryland. My father's family, with the exception of two of their siblings who were sisters, still resided in Maryland when everybody else had moved away. And so in the summertime, my mother would send us to Maryland, and we would always go to stay with my maternal grandmother's house, but we would also go to my paternal grandmother, which is Mama Pearl, and stay over there, you know. So, you know, our roots, I put it that our roots really was always 1 foot in Maryland and 1 foot in New Orleans.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay.
And I want to add that enough to know something, but not enough to know a lot. You know, I'm just uncovering a lot about the relatives with the search and the family tree. I'm still uncovering a lot about the family that I didn't know growing up. And as I would tell everybody, we would go and people would tell you, well, that's your kin, that's your kin. I wouldn't tell you how. You know, and we didn't stay long enough because we were only out there for a few weeks in the summertime, and wouldn't tell you how they were related, or if they did, it was so many we forgot. So you know, it's like learning all over again, and I'm thankful for that.
Anybody else want to share something about the episode? Okay, then so after, go ahead. So for anyone who didn't already know about this, can you describe, well, for all of us, can you describe what your reaction to this information was when you first found out about it?
I could tell you when they first said, they described well, my nephew, he lives in California. He was the one that came across the Georgetown article about the slaves. And then when they started I started to read it. And when I started to read it, they also described Isaac Hawkins and Sharp, very deep in the Catholic faith. I said, oh, shucks, they are kin to us. Because my mother was a devout, strong, as well as her brother. They were all Catholic, devout, strong Catholic. So, you know, when I saw that, that in the article, I say, yeah, that's us. You know, I didn't know how we came, but I say, yeah, that's us.
Okay, we have a request from the chat room. They want us to share the list of surnames, and I'm gonna just pull that up real quick, just so that folks can see that list of surnames. And then, and if anyone else, if you're not, anytime in the future, if you want to see this list, we have this list posted on our website. Rochelle was speaking earlier that there are over, I think there's what, 41, 39, 41 different surnames that's connected to the GU272. I'm not going to read through the whole list. And if you go to our website at GU272.net, you can certainly see the list. I am sharing that list right now. For anyone who would like to take a look at that list just briefly. We keep that list handy because there are some descendants that we haven't found yet from this, from the list, and we're constantly trying to reconnect our families. And so if you know of people, please put them in touch with the GU272 Descendants Association. That's our main goal, is to reconnect our families.
We continue to mention our website, but it is GU272.net. GU272.net. And Georgetown University is what GU stands for. So we are descendants of the enslaved from Georgetown University.
Yes, yes. Anyone else want to share what they what it was like when they first found out they were connected to this rich history? Epatha found out on this show tonight, and but we've known, most of us have known for a while, and it was really interesting to watch as she was just had such a look of amazement on her face. What was it like for you when you found out?
Well, for me, Karen,
Mm-hmm.
and to the rest of the folks on the chat line, there were no cameras. I was in my office at work, and I had gotten a few phone calls that I ignored because I did not recognize the person, and I was retiring at the time. And to make a long story short, I asked Richard Cellini, who called me, to indicate that my Ford family descended from slaves at Georgetown. And when he called and we spoke, I would say that I've always known that I was a slave's descendant, but never knew that I could possibly find out. And so it was difficult to verify for me and to know and to understand what all of it meant initially. But from the moment I found out, I felt a strong obligation to not just delve into my history, not his story, but mine, along with my family, to know and to find out exactly who my family was prior to my grandmother. Because other than my grandmother, Louise Ford Rogers, I didn't know anybody beyond that. And to know, find out for sure that her father was actually a slave, an infant sold with his siblings and his parents to Chatham Plantation near Donaldsonville, Louisiana, gave me a sense of understanding clearly, not just who I thought I was or what I thought about my family, but having known or to know more was not just important, but affirming.
I have a question specifically for cousin Lucille. How are you connected to cousin Epatha?
Well, cousin Epatha and I share the same uh, great grandmother, uh, Easter Hawkins Butler Murmo. So when you see um, Hawkless Murmo and Easter Hawkins Butler, that's where our lineage connects with those two people. And then they had four children, one named Lucille, which is a name like I think they mentioned in the program. Some names were continually passed down. So my grandmother Lucille, my aunt Lucille, and I'm a Lucille. But getting back to my grandmother Lucille and Epatha's grandmother, Pearl Bowens, are sisters. And so there were four of them. There was Effie Murmo, I'm sorry, getting the background. Effie Murmo, Lucille Murmo, uh, Pearl Murmo, which is Epatha's grandmother, and let's see, Josephine. Josephine. Those were the four girls that came from Hawkless Murmo and uh, Easter Hawkins Butler Murmo.
Wonderful. And I just want to share just a couple of comments. We just so y'all know, we have 32 people in the chat room, which is wonderful for our first YouTube live conversation. We have brother Warren in the chat room who says, I have DNA matches with many of the Butler, Hawkins, Mahoney descendants. I have not yet identified how I am exactly related to many of the GU272 descendants. Um, and then we have from Kathy Stevenson, who's responding to Brother Warren, says, I'm a Butler descendant and I have connections to Hawkins and Queens. I see DNA matches to Butlers in Louisiana, but haven't found exactly the exact relationship. I live in Maryland. And so we have cousins all over. And I think I saw our cousin Valerie Poole, who also lives in Maryland, interacting in the chat room. So uh, it is amazing that we have our cousins all the way in Maryland who found out that they have this connection to their cousins down in Louisiana. Um, so, since you guys found out you have this connection, do you have any plans to visit the location where your ancestors lived or died?
Hello, everyone. This is Rochelle Sanders Prater again. Welcome to all the family members. I want to give a shout out to my sister, Sybil McDowell, Sybil Sanders McDowell, who is one of the people that this is a passion. She loves family. I just wanted to share with each other, with everyone that I did. Of course, I stated earlier that I was born and raised in Maringouin. And I will tell you that on behalf of Maringouin, they are very excited to seeing our little town shared around the world. Of course, if you ever meet anybody and you say Maringouin, because of the way it's spelled and look, people know that you know somebody who knows somebody from Maringouin. So I'm very proud of that fact that Maringouin, which by the way means mosquito, is now on the map. It was wonderful to see it in historical documents at Georgetown. I was just blown away. But I'm most proud of having had the opportunity to go to Maryland now for like the third time now, I believe it was. And unfortunately, I did reach out to cousin Stephanie White, who did a wonderful ancestral tour in Maryland of the different plantations there where our ancestors actually lived and worked, if you will. So I had the pleasure of doing that. And then, of course, last year during this event, Karen and some of the other descendants and relatives put together the Louisiana ancestral tour. So I'm looking forward to that, to both of those becoming part of a up and running and operational as national, if you will, American history. It's got to happen, because I don't know if anybody else on this participating tonight realize the opportunities we have here. We are the largest group of uh, descendants from enslaved Africans in America that have been able to gather together, and we're growing. I also wanted to say as well to beyond Brother Warren, who was the other person I saw? Garland Boyette, whom we put the surnames up. I would encourage you to, we have to figure out a way, some way, if you can, just go to our website and hit the info button and leave your contact information, and we're gonna see if we can make that connection and figure out. I'm pretty sure you may be a cousin, because we did have some Browns as well. So I want everybody out there to know to do me a favor as a person of color. You know, we gotten away from looking at each other when we walk up past each other. I live in Cincinnati, and for whatever reason, we don't really greet and speak to each other. We have to get back to that, because it's very likely that we are probably cousins that we can trace, maybe at the most 2, 3, 4 generations back. So I look forward to having you guys and meeting you all and getting this movement to going. Thanks.
And for folks in the chat room, just some questions for you guys. Just type your answers in the chat room. Let us know what some of your impressions of the episode were. And now back to our guest on the panel. Anybody else want to share any more plans to visit any additional locations before I go on to the next question?
I would like to go back to Washington again, and this summer we were in Washington. My sisters and I, we just briefly went to Isaac Hawkins Hall, took a picture there just to see where it was. Uh, we hadn't planned on doing anything else, but I really would like to see the original site, to make it a point of going back to see the original site where our family came from in Maryland. You know, probably looks much different today, but I would like to go back there and see, you know.
Okay. Has this discovery changed or affect your sense of self in any way? If so, how? Anybody?
Well, I'm not a Hawkins descendant. The main bloodline is Ford, and I have Mahoney and Queen. But what's very interesting to me is that for years we've been told his story, not ours. And finally, to have our own stories verified, our own ancestral paths verified, is very important, I think, to any person to understand their background and something about their ancestors that's true and verifiable, and at this point for us historical, because as Rochelle said, we have not had our history verified in any manner that we could say it puts us in a place where knowing what our ancestral path is and knowing where we came from. And for me personally, to have placed my hand on the manifest, on the document that lists my ancestors is extremely important, because the sense of who I am is wrapped up in who came before me. And so, since other populations, for the most part, have that opportunity and know it and have it listed in documents, even though these documents are actual manifests or lists, the same way you would list cattle, or the same way you would list farm implements, to know where they were at a given time is something that's important. And I think my sense of purpose has changed since I found out about my ancestry. And my forebearers were not guest workers; they were not servants. They were enslaved people, but they were enslaved people who came from families, intact families. And yes, they were Catholic.
Now, Sherilyn, you mentioned, that you're not a Hawkins, but you are related to almost all of the Hawkinses.
You know, I have not examined as much as you, and I have many other relatives. I know Queen and Mahoney and Ford, but did not know Hawkins. But so thanks for that. That's research that I haven't gotten to. So thank you.
Yes, yes, ma'am. We haven't figured out how, but there is a link. And what I will say, and though it has not been proven yet, some kind of way, um, there's an exploration of perhaps some of the women way back in the day who may have been Queen Mahoney's who married some of the Hawkins men, because there is definitely a connection uh, between the Queen family and the Hawkins family. And so, and I also will mention that Judy Riffle, I don't know if she's still in the chat room, but Judy Riffle, the genealogist here in Louisiana, has been working on that, as well as our cousin Kevin Porter in Maryland, who is a Queen descendant. Kevin has done a lot of extensive research on that. In fact, it was from Kevin that I first heard that theory that he felt that that the connection between Maryland and Louisiana was from the Queens in Maryland to Hawkinses who ended up in Louisiana. And Sherilyn, you as a Ford descendant are related to many of the Hawkins descendants.
Well, that's good to know. So, hello, cousins.
Hello.
And that's what this is all about. I am just watching also the chat room just rolling over there with so many of our Maryland cousins have definitely joined us in the chat room. And I see our cousin Melissa is interacting because, Melissa's from Maryland, but she's living in Texas. I see Melissa is answering some of the questions that some of the Maryland cousins are having. This is really about reconnecting across all of these miles and, just bringing it back to the television show. I almost wish cousin Epatha could be in this chat room because she would be even more blown away because she got this information on Finding Your Roots. She knew that she had family in Maringouin, but I don't know that she knew the depth of the connections that we have. Because I remember on the show when she said that her sister follows the news and everything. And her sister, she's like, so my sister knows about this, but I don't think that she knows how much we're connected to all of this. So this brings me to back again to the show. Y'all know we had this big reunion this past June. And a big part of that reunion was shown on the television show tonight. Tell me what y'all thought about how the reunion was portrayed.
It was short. Short.
See, I thought it was longer than it was more of it than I thought, actually. Well, go ahead.
Well, no. I don't, it was positive. The fact that it showed that there were so many people there, I'm happy that so many people turned out just to find out what the story was, because probably they didn't have all the story either.
That is true. So true.
And
anybody else?
Find something missing, and for the longest I had started doing some, but I started on my mother's side of the tree. I didn't start with my with the Hawkinses. And so when you start filling in some of those blanks, that you didn't know, it's especially going back to Maryland. I wouldn't have never even thought that we were from, in fact, I had in my mind that we were, early on when I was coming up, I just said, well, Hawkins, that's English. There's some Englishmen came down here and that's how we wind up, they had slaves or something like that. I had that story in my mind. I would have never thought that we had, that what came out and the fact that we lived in French Louisiana is why we were Catholic, because this was all Catholic territory at one time. So I really didn't, I thought that was the most likely story when it came out that we were from Maryland and we were all a part of a plantation owned by priests. I would say anger, and those are the things that came out at first, that when, you were raised to be faithful, but then you find out that faithful is not always right. So I won't say any more about that, but that was the thing that I was, couldn't reconcile, the fact that it was that from Maryland that way, because I always had some kind of picture in my mind that it was something different, in Louisiana. Yeah.
As I said, I thought we were only going to get about 20 seconds, but so it looks like maybe it was about a minute and a half or so, and I thought only a few people were going to be shown, so I was surprised and happy to see so many descendants
Yeah.
shown.
Right. I was happy too. I didn't know that many would show up either, but it was great to, and I even, in the few minutes that we had that day, I got to meet some cousins that from the second family of Jackson. I got to meet some of them. And I'd say now if we had had a little more time, I would have met a whole lot more, but it just wasn't long enough.
Okay. Lucille, you got any impressions of the reunion part of the show?
Okay, yes, I had to unmute myself. I thought that it was well done. I think it showed just enough of us to show that, this was a big production. And I know how much time we had before we actually did it. So, I mean, that was just phenomenal to me to see such a great production, and the fact that at first I was a little concerned about the connection with finding your roots, but I have to say that the the show was so well done, and even if it's one of us who was uh, fortunate enough to be able to be the the person who could show actually what was going on with the GU272, that was excellently done within a couple of years of knowledge about our past and where we actually came from. So I think that was a great marriage of our efforts and the efforts of PBS.
Thank you. And I just want to encourage everyone, if you haven't done the poll yet, please go on and submit your answers to the poll. We have 32 people in the chat room. We would love to capture your information in the poll. We're going to be reporting that information out in just a few minutes. I just want to share a few more comments from the chat room from cousin Erlene. She says, my initial reaction was similar to Epatha. Also, I want to return to DC, to the DC area, and visit St. Inigo's and the other former ancestral sites. Let's see, cousin Melly. Let's see, she says, I'm glad they gave us the opportunity to get together the way that we did. And then sweet cousin Dante, he's saying to cousin Erlene, anytime you want to just come on up, and he'll help her get around to some of those plantations. Let's see here. So I'm happy to see everyone in the chat room interacting really well. And so anyone else on our panel have any more comments about the show? I know we have you on mute, Rochelle. And I know before we begin to, I know we have about 16 minutes left in the show. And so I know if you have anything you want to share, you can bring yourself off of mute and
okay, everybody. This is your little cousin with the strange voice, the raspy voice. You will never, ever, ever, never forget me. So let me just say this. We do have a former organization, the GU272 Descendants Association Incorporated. I am the vice president for membership. I would love for everyone, as you continue to identify yourself or not know for sure, I put my email address out there is vpmembership@gu272.net. We have some membership opportunities for membership there. We're going to be doing some other things moving forward this year. Do not want to miss you guys. We have information there to join as a verified member as well as a declared member or a partner member as well. We are listed as a nonprofit, but we're not that kind of nonprofit where we tax deductible as of yet. This is the first step for us to come together and organize as a group. We are self-sufficient, which means if you want to sell popcorn balls or pecan candy or whatever it is to keep us afloat so that we can continue to get the information, we would love to have you. The other thing that I want to have you guys know to look forward there as well, we have a video in the family somewhere of the full event of that event that Epatha was at. And we're going to post it there at the website, GU272.net. When you type that in as well, if you type it in as a HTTPS, S meaning secure, semicolon, and so forth, you won't get that error message. So if you happen to get an error message, make sure you put it as a secure site. But we have to love you whether you think you are, especially Brother Warren, and I forget the other person on here. I would love to see you guys in there. Oh, you love my voice, Cousin Dante. I appreciate that because I struggled as a child, but I love it now. But Robin, Sarah Piglet, everybody, all of you guys who not sure if you may or may not be a descendant, we would love to discuss that further. Also, if you would be so kind to, you want me to repeat the URL? It's HTTPS, semicolon, whatever that slash is, // GU272.net. And in the upper right corner, there's a place that says menu. And you can go there and you can join and look at the other surnames. There's even a platform similar to Facebook. It's a little more secure. So as we continue to build and grow, we'll be able to go there and do our own thing. So,
Cousin Rochelle, could you repeat that with forward slashes?
Yes, it is HTTPS. Again, S is very important because sometimes people just put the GU272.net and it says something about dangerous or something like that. And that's because we are secure. If you put the secure site, you won't get that error message. So you guys have no idea. One of the things that Karen had asked early on, I didn't chime in, was how you felt when you found that out. And I'm just going to share with everybody. When I found it out, and it's still today, energized me so much because when I found out about it, I feel like I won the lottery. As I said, I'm very social and I love everybody, but I especially love my Black folks because I grew up in the South in that little town, America. We knew everybody, we know everybody. So to have an opportunity on a national, international platform where I get to say, hey, you my cousin, I am elated about that. And I want everybody to catch that spirit. So I'm really happy about that.
Okay, I want to give every one of our panelists an opportunity to make one final comment before we go to Val, and we're going to share the results of our poll question. So starting with Sherilyn, any parting comments?
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for setting this up and for having the foresight to continue our connections with each other. And I think what this program shows is that so are. And if you could have people like Epatha Merkerson, there are many other people who may be connected, but knowing that you're a descendant, whether you are a movie star or whether or not you're a teacher or in your hometown, all of us need to have and take the opportunity to seize the opportunity to find out our roots, who we are connected to, and also how we can pay homage and appreciation to our ancestors, because their spirits are implanted within us, and we should know who they are, what they did, where they came from, and how we are all connected. And this is proof positive that it can be done in that manner.
All right. Thank you, Cousin Gloria.
Pretty much, I think Sherilyn said pretty much all there is to be said with regard to this being the path going forward. You know something. You know something about who you are. So I'm hoping that we can all write stories around that. You know.
Cousin Peaches. Unmute yourself, Cousin Peaches. Start over and unmute yourself, Cousin Peaches.
You saw that mouth moving and nothing was coming out. Well, I just want to say this is an excellent opportunity. I feel as the historian for our board that this is just like a godsend, because it just actually put everything in perspective, and it makes it easier to explain to people to where if they have a question about GU272 Descendants, which I always find an excellent conversation starter because everybody's eyes are like really swollen about it. But this just, solidifies or adds to our opportunities for growth and development. And I'm just really excited about it. And so thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Cousin Rochelle, do you have a parting comment?
Remember, you guys, the 272 and beyond, and remember where we came from. Now we really, 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 really know that. We have names and faces, and we owe it to them to keep the legacy going. And he's loving us. So, love y'all.
Cousin Val, before we get to sharing the information about the poll, do you have any parting comments about the show or anything related to the GU272?
I think the show was very good. I think they did a good job of covering the background and showing images. It's always good to get on and share information about where we're from and how we're connected. When I first found out about it's been surprising to me that this information was out there. And ever since I found out, I've been doing a lot of research on our family and trying to get more of my Campbell relatives involved and informed about what's going on.
Thank you. I just realized that I don't think I ever introduced myself, but better late than never. I am Karen Harper Royal, the Executive Director of the GU272 Descendants Association, married to Kenneth Royal, a Hawkins descendant, and based on the tree that was shared, that would be Epatha's third cousin. And what I'm going to do now is share the results of the survey. And for some reason, I am producing a lot of feedback. So Val's going to read the results of the survey. Just a second, y'all. And so this is the beginning. Go ahead, Val.
Poll to find out how many descendants or what the surnames were. So We have, well, even though it says 0 board members, there are several board members that's here that probably just didn't get it checked off on the poll, because there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4 of us on the panel. Okay, actually 5. And then the friends and family, we have 2 people who are with us that checked off friends of family. We have 2 people from the Barnes/Barney family, 1 from Blaylock family. We have 1 Brown, 5 Butler, 4 Campbells, 1 from the Conti family. We have 1 person from the Diggs, 3 Eagland, 2 from the Gulf family. We have 2 Harrisons. Please scroll. Thank you. All right, we have 7 Hawkins family members, 1 Hill and 1 Jones. We have 9 Mahoney family members, 3 Mason, 2 1 each of Nolan and Plowden, 5 Queen, 1 Scott. Please scroll. 2 West, and 1 Yorkshire. So those are the family surnames that took our poll. Now, the other poll that we had was to find out from which state that people were in. Karen, if you could scroll on top of the 8.7s.
Okay. Are you able to see that one? Okay,
Yeah,
there you
but
go.
put your mouse on the 8.7.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 8.7% from North Carolina. The next 8.7, please. 8.7 from Virginia.
Okay, looks like that's Arizona. Okay, there's 8.7 from Arizona.
Yes, I mentioned that.
Oh, you said Virginia, and then there was Arizona.
Right, I mentioned Arizona. So 13% are watching from California, as well as go to the 13%, so all 13%. From Texas, we have 13%, as well as Maryland, 13%. Let's go 17. Okay, 17% of us are looking or viewing from Louisiana. Pick some of the ones that we don't see percentages. Okay, we have 4.3 from Illinois, 4.3 from Hawaii. I hope that's my cousin. And 4.3 from Ohio, and 4.3 from New York. And I hope that's my son. And those are the states who registered in the poll that are viewing this broadcast online.
Okay. All righty. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out to participate in our first online broadcast of our YouTube channel. We plan to have more in the future, especially focused on our surnames as we continue to make the connections among our GU272 cousins. We would also like to make sure that you guys know how to reach us in the future. So I'm going to just share all of our contact information as we exit. And again, thank you again for joining us from the GU272 Descendants Association. And we look forward to see you in the future. And you can continue to participate in the comment section. Leave comments on our Facebook page, our Twitter, Instagram. You can email us and continue this discussion in the chat room as well. Thank you very much, and good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all, and
Good
thank you.
night.
Good night.